Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have with me Joe Pici. Joe, welcome.
Well, thanks for inviting me in, Michael.
So Joe, you're a sales trainer and speaker. You help organizations and their sales teams to book more appointments and close more deals. Your clients include Aflac, Hilton, Nationwide, the NFL, McDonald's, Deloitte, a whole bunch of others. But take us back. Let's kind of get started at the beginning. How did you actually get into sales consulting and training and speaking?
Well, I got into sales consulting by first having to get into sales. Okay. I do believe sales trainers should have to have a prerequisite of selling, or they should presently be selling. And we found ourselves in a really bad situation financially. So part-time, I started selling. And from there, we went full-time in selling. And then what happened and because we were successful, people were throwing us on big keynote stages all around the world. About 2003, we were sitting at a convention. I said to my wife, there's a big gap in skill-based training in sales and communications. We need to fill it.
Even before you got to that place, like take me back to how did you actually even get into sales? Like what were you doing before you started, you showed up that day at the convention?
I was a broke football coach, American football coach, and my wife was a voice coach, former singer. So collectively, we didn't have a business background.
Right.
And so we found ourselves having to learn business.
And how does a football coach get into sales?
It's very easy to get in sales. It's very hard to stay in sales.
So what was your first sales role, or what was that first sales experience for you?
It was direct sales. It was network marketing, because we could get in part-time, but they weren't teaching you how to sell. It was more schmoozing, which is not my personality, And so we had to start reading and attending and really developed our own methodology and realized that sales was lead generation, booking appointments, and having consultative sales presentations over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we missed.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in that, because I think a lot of people have similar experiences, whether in network marketing or even just, they recognize, okay, sales is important, but then actually getting into it and doing something about it, you made that leap. So what was going on in your mind that made you decide, yeah, we could just continue selling whatever we're selling in network marketing? I did Cutco with knives back in the day, and I know I write a whole bunch of stuff, which was a great experience, but I didn't then necessarily go in and go deeper into the world of sales in terms of deciding to consult and coach and train and speak in that area. So what made you decide that, okay, we're going to actually get into this area deeper?
When we were on those keynote stages and we got to know people really well, we realized most people didn't have a methodology for selling.
Mm.
We looked at the hardest aspects of sales, which is multiple ways of generating leads, creating the right messaging, being able to pick up that phone and qualify and book a qualified appointment, and then have more consultative sales, not transactionals. So as we started to dig into that, we realized something else. There wasn't a lot of skill-based training going on. There was more motivation and strategy.
Right. And so you started off, when you said you were these kind of keynote stages, this was network marketing events?
Yes.
Okay. So you saw people are kind of rah-rah, pumping up all this energy and dancing and whatever else is done. Not typically my style, but that was happening. And
wasn't
so you
mine
said, okay,
either.
right. It's missing some real meat. There's the substance, the details are missing here. So what did you do when you had that realization? What did you then decide to do with that kind of discovery or that idea?
Well, first thing, we launched Dawn to become a communications trainer. She got certified in DISC.
Okay. Dawn is your wife, Joe?
Yes, and we're partners. Well, even looking at the model of human behavior DISC, we also saw that most consultants trained material. We started looking more at adaptive behaviors, and we created our own methodology. But what happened was, when Dawn was talking to a company, I got her a little gig. the owner of the company said to me, this is the first consulting job I had. Your wife says that you're really good at getting people to book appointments. No, your wife says you're good at teaching people to use the phone. I said, no, sir. I'm good at getting people to book quality appointments. Just like that, we had to go home and learn how to write a proposal. We literally sold training, and then we went in and did it. In our first year consulting, speaking, and training, we made six figures without a website, without beautiful materials that we have now. We literally only trained on things we did, so it had authenticity. We were raw, but we produced really good results. And that was the beginning.
So in generating in your first year 6 figures, did that come from, like, were you implementing your own expertise and experience of booking appointments? Like, you were doing that for your own business? Or was it you knew someone that kind of landed the first gig, you did great work, then referrals created the next clients? What were you doing to get those first few clients?
That's a great question. Because we were leaving network marketing, network marketers were not going to pay the fees we were going to charge in corporate training.
Mm-hmm.
So the people we knew were not going to be a good target market for us. So we had to learn how to say, what were we going to be delivering? Who was most apt to need what we did? We generated really a lot of cold leads, and I picked up the phone, gave a value proposition, started sitting down, and it just started to happen. But I think the key here, Michael, is that we only train and speak and coach on what we do. So it wasn't like I had to stand up and go, well, guys, what you need? No, we were training what we did to get them to sit down with us. And it sounds raw, but I'll tell you, that's the foundation we built our whole business on to start.
And so the reason why you had this foundation in terms of setting up appointments and bookings and all that was because of what you experienced through network marketing. Is that correct?
In network marketing, they weren't teaching those skills. Our back was against the wall. We were $350,000 in medical debt with no way out. I had to start looking at, we weren't learning it here. Who was teaching it? So we would start pulling things from maybe a little bit of Zig Ziglar and some of the giants, but really they were going surface, more mindset. So a lot of it became trial and error. And one night when I got 56 no's on the phone, I said, you better get better at this or you're not going to make it. So we started really digging into scripting. And we started developing scripts. And as they would work, we started building foundations there. Okay.
I think, Joe, many consultants, when they hear you say that you made 56 calls and got 56 no's, right? That's the exact reason that they don't want to be making calls, right? So there's a big fear around picking up the phone and using the phone today, right? And that's an area that you actually kind of run boot camps and trainings on is I think it's called beating the fear of the phone. Where do you think that fear comes from? And then second part is, how can people overcome the fear of the phone?
Number one, I got 56 no's because I didn't know what I was doing and I was calling the wrong people. So nobody has to go through that. When we looked at why are people afraid of the phone? Why are people afraid of outbound sales? What we realized was outbound sales and the phone, most of the speaking and training on it is for that A-type personality, which is only 10% of the population. We had to develop a training that any behavior style would feel comfortable. And instead of looking at it as hunting, we teach fishing. So we have a much higher percentage of people getting conversions, but also they're not looking for a yes. We position it where are they looking for somebody that may want to sit with them because they deliver X result. So when we do what I go in to do corporate training or people come to our boot camp, the outbound phone calls are only a piece of the training, but we spend a full day before we get on the phone. We have like a 92% success on getting quote unquote through the gatekeeper. We don't use any tricks and gimmicks. It's authentic scripting. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. I'd love if you go like a little bit deeper just to make this more tangible for everybody listening to this. Let's say that a consultant wants to reach a senior level decision maker at a bank, whether it's a regional bank or an international bank or some other large organization, whether in financial services or otherwise. But for this example, they look at that and go, well, these are busy people. Okay, I've found who I should call, who I need to connect with on LinkedIn, but how do I now actually set a meeting with them? What would you kind of advise them through? What would you take them through?
Okay, first of all, I think they have to look at what is my product and what does it deliver? That's most important. And the decision maker is whoever answers the phone. I treat everyone at any level like they're making a decision. And if I do that and I treat you, I'll give you an example. I cold called TSA Homeland Security one day, just as a wild hair. I wasn't expecting anything. This guy answers the phone. I said, my name is Joe Pici of Pici and Pici. Is this a good time? Lady says, what is this all about? I specialize in reducing conflict, increasing productivity, and reducing turnover. She said, well, I don't know what to do with that. I said, would it be worth a few minutes for me to show you how you can reduce some of the issues you're having at the gate? She immediately put me through to the decision maker, the whole head of Homeland Security in DC. I said the exact same thing, only when I said I specialize in reducing conflict, increasing productivity, he said, you have any idea who you call? I am the head of security, of Homeland Security. I'm in the training division. You don't just cold call Homeland Security. And I said, okay, would it be worth 15 minutes for me to show you how to reduce some of the issues you're having at the gate and reduce turnover? He couldn't say no. Well, he could have said no. And if he did, it was no big deal. But he goes, call me back 9:30 tomorrow. He had a room full of people. I honestly had a contract in 2 weeks. Now, he could have said no. I lead with benefits. So it doesn't matter if the janitor answers the phone. I treat everyone with respect. And it's amazing how it literally takes me to who I need to talk to. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, and I think you did a great job. So what I'm hearing you say, Joe, is it's all about, first of all, making sure that you understand who your ideal client is, then making sure that you have a message, essentially your value proposition that speaks to their pain points, the results they want, really what they care most about. And then you go in without the pressure of, feeling like you need to make a sale. Rather, you essentially kind of go through your script, right? Which is sharing the value proposition. And if it resonates with them, it resonates. Great. Then you plan the next step about 15 minutes time, the meeting, whatever it is. If it doesn't resonate, then what? Do you dig deeper or you just kind of go to the next person?
Okay. I don't believe in overcoming objections. People say, Joe, you're great at sales. No, Joe's great at finding buyers. Because one of my target markets, okay, is I work with speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants, not on speaking, training, coaching, and consulting, but how to take their intellectual property and talent and make money with it. So if you're a speaker, trainer, coach, or consultant, and I say, Michael, my name is Joe Pici, and Pici. Is this a good time? Well, what's this all about? I specialize in helping speakers, coaches, trainers, and consultants make money with their talent and intellectual property. And you go, Joe, I'm doing just fine. Fantastic, Michael. Have a great day. I'm done.
Yeah, you move on.
People get beat up is they think they're supposed to talk you into it. Now, I'm going to give you a paradigm shift. All right? Here's for your listeners. When people are saying, well, Joe, you're just a tough guy. You don't mind cold calls. We have 18 ways to generate leads. Do you know what one of them are? The cold call. The cold call is not to get an appointment or sell anything. Find out if they qualify. So when people are driving an hour and a half to go to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, which is great, spend 2 hours there and an hour and a half back, they spend a half a day. If I spend a half a day on the phone using a value proposition in a target market, I'm going to get some meetings.
And Joe, for someone going, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm excited to start, doing this. Where do you find, where's the best place for them to get the contact information for those people? Do you use a specific service? Do you purchase a list? Do you just do research online? What works for you? What's the best process?
I don't believe in purchasing any lists. I never buy a list. There are some good list services out there. I have found a lot of lists have been done over and gone over. I think because what happened to us after our third years of doing what we're doing now, we hired a coach. And we spent a whole lot of money for one day in his studio. And I have great respect for everybody needs a coach, a consultant. And I sat with him and he looked at me. He goes, Joe, I've seen you and Dawn train. I've seen you here. I see Dawn there. He said, you'll get better, but there's not that much more room. He said, Joe, I don't know anybody that can pick up the phone and just get an appointment. And Joe, you have a very consultative sales presentation. So I go, okay, great. Now you're blowing smoke. So what are you telling me? He goes, the rest of your life is lead generation and brand expansion. Once you master selling, then it's where am I going to get leads? And so I don't have time to tell you all the lead generation, but our number one lead generator is LinkedIn.
And what are you doing on LinkedIn that's working so well for you right now?
Well, here's the thing. Many years ago, we were not on social media. So we signed a check and my wife took a years-long courses on all the different mediums. At the end of the year, she said, Joe, our target market is on LinkedIn. She said, Joe, your target market is not on Facebook. So you don't need to spend any time other than LinkedIn. She said, but I need 90 days because most people are using LinkedIn more as an inbound tool. After 90 days, she had done her homework. She created a methodology that if you can teach me this stuff, you can teach anybody how I mine leads and use it as an outbound tool. Now, companies and individuals hire Dawn. She'll even do it on Skype, a couple hours. And so we use it more in a way where I'm just looking to get somebody to look at my profile, and that starts my sales process. You know, I was on the phone with a potential client today. He's up in Atlanta. It's a startup, but could be very lucrative. And I said, if I handed you a pen, could you put your sales process on the board? He said, oh, no, I know my manufacturer. I said, I didn't say your manufacturing. I said, your sales process. I will tell you 95% of the companies I go into, I don't care what name they are, there's not a concrete sales process. There's not a concrete messaging. There's not concrete skills. They allow salespeople to sell the way they want to.
And on LinkedIn, are you outreaching to ideal clients in a similar way that you're using the phone, where you've identified someone who you believe is an ideal client, you get in front of them with your value proposition? Is that a similar approach to what you're doing on LinkedIn, where you'll connect with them, message?
If you were to look at my profile.
I've looked at your profile, yeah.
All right. Say you looked at my profile. I say, hey, thanks for viewing. Let's connect. Then I'd go to your contact information. If your phone number was there, I'd call you.
Right.
If your company website was there, I'd go. I mean, in National Football League, a guy looked at Dawn's LinkedIn profile. That's all he did. Dawn sent it over to me. I reached out to him. Hey, you on Dawn's LinkedIn profile? What compelled you to look?
Right. Got it. So
let's connect.
So you're looking very closely at who views your profile, and then if
that's one way, though.
Right. So one way, but if you see that they're an ideal client, then you'll reach out to them to initiate a conversation.
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Because of my skill on the phone,
yeah,
I call anybody and I give them a value proposition. They opt in or opt out. Because we have a B2B business, we have a B2C business. So we not only serve big companies, but we also have a big business on individuals, like for our boot camps, like for consulting.
And why do you do that? Because some people would look at that and go, isn't that a distraction? Why not just focus on one or the other? How can you create the highest level of results in one of these areas if you're spending some of your time working on the other areas? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'll give you my thoughts. The word niche is always used. Okay. Now, I believe you can niche one of two ways. You can niche your target market, or you could niche what you do. We niche what we do. For example, our B2B market, that's when we go after corporations. All right. And like in September, I was in Philadelphia, I was in Boston, I was all over the place. However, next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have a 3-day sales boot camp. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I have a speaker boot camp. In the evenings, we do DISC certification. Now, I will tell you that B2C market, that's a lucrative week.
What percentage of your revenue would you say comes from the larger organizations versus the individuals that you work with?
We have silos of our business. If you were to look at our business, we have corporate training, we have boot camps, we have one-on-one coaching, we have keynotes. Our two biggest revenue producers are corporate sales training and our boot camps. Now, your lowest revenue producing activity is going to be one-on-one coaching. So if I'm speaking to consultants right now and you were coaching with me, I would tell you, until your brand got strong and demanded it, I'd be careful how much our one-on-one coaching fee, my one-on-one coaching fee is now worth it. It wouldn't have been worth it in the beginning.
Right. So, okay. So that's your thinking around, the focus, the way that you look at focus and how you work in a focused manner to build a brand, right? Some people would look at, you have these two different markets that you're serving, but the way that you're putting them together that makes sense for you is that the focus of what you're teaching and training on and speaking on that's the constant. And so whether you're working with a larger market or the smaller market in terms of size and individuals or organizations, it's still on the same topic. So that makes it all one for you.
So Michael, when I sit down with people, I don't sit down with an individual or a company to sell them a product. I sell them a result. They determine how they want to use me. So therefore, do they want to send people to our boot camp? Do they want me to go into corporation? I had a lady fly in one-on-one in my studio and paid me more than some corporations because the value was there. So nowhere on our website is our pricing. And we sell results. They determine how they want to use us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did you always, so it's your wife and yourself in the business, Joe, correct? Did you ever have the feeling or the desire to grow beyond, to build, a larger team?
Michael, here's the challenge for Joe Pici. I built a really good mousetrap. We built such a uniqueness in the marketplace. We wanted to be able to compete with the elite. We do. I'm ranked number 3 in the world. But when I sign a contract with people, they point at me, Michael, and they go, don't send me in a licensed trainer. Now, licensing works for people. Don't get me wrong. That's a business model. But because of the uniqueness of what we've created, okay, I have so many clients that want me, not a certified trainer.
Let's say you could certify someone that, does what you're doing exceptionally well, right? To the level that your clients would feel that, okay, there's great value in this. We don't care if it's Joe or if it's Tim or if it's Susie, we're getting the result that we want at the end of the day. Would you want that? Like, is that something that's ever been on your mind that, yeah, I'd like to grow where we can generate revenue without my direct involvement? I'd like to have a team. Or have you always just been very intentional around, no, I want this business to be, my wife and myself running the show?
I'm going to share something with all of your people out there that I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, and I'm aware of that. Entrepreneurs think scale. They're exactly what you're saying. I would like to scale. The problem is I've gone so far into it that my clients tell me, we want you. To pull off of that, I could lose clients. Now, we're looking at other means. For example, we have our own podcast called Sales Edge. We believe that is scaling us because down the road, it could get big enough to draw in advertisement. Right now, it's 100% content like yours. And, but sometimes you build a business in a position where the other aspect is I love what I do. I don't have any hobbies. I mean, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, I get on a stationary bike and I'm ready to roll. It would be great if the business could get outside of us. However, we didn't position it that way in the beginning because, again, we were looking to grow a brand. And I believe brand comes from a result of what you do, not throwing money at websites and those things are important. But we have sold ourselves into our brand. Now, Dawn is the expert on LinkedIn. We stay inside our lane there. Okay. Am I answering your questions?
Yeah. So looking back, in hindsight now, Joe, knowing what you know, and based on what you just shared, is there something that you wish or at least think, oh, we could have done that differently and it would have been such a good thing? Again, you can't go back and change time, but for someone else who's maybe entering, you're in business now 27 years, I believe it is, for someone who might be 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years in, is there anything that stands out to you that could have been a very strategic decision that you could have done differently?
Had we chosen a different method, a different topic, like leadership would have been easy.
Why?
Leadership doesn't have quantifiable results for a long time. When I go into train, they get the results that day. I mean, I was just up in Boston, trained people that weren't using the phone. They were using email, and we converted 75% to appointment. Okay. We built such a uniqueness inside of our business. So I think there's certain things that scale better. The communications part of our business would scale easily, teaching people communications training. I want you to understand there's another thing there. Okay. Who's going to sell?
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, we went to the National Speakers Association convention. And in 2008, and our year in Canada, I don't know in Canada if you guys got nailed the way we did, but the bottom dropped down here.
There was an impact across the globe, that's for sure.
Yeah. A lot of the famous speakers, the celebrities, they were hurt and their businesses had really imploded. A lot of people got out. I'm sitting there with Dawn and I said, we need to go home. She said, we spent money to be here. I said, look, I have a high regard for these people, but we're tripling our income this year. I'm not celebrity status yet. We need to go home and find out what we're doing. What we found out about Pici and Pici was we were just as diligent about the business side of consulting, speaking, and training as we were about delivery. The hardest thing to duplicate? Not what I do, is how I get clients. So now, if I take people on, I got to sell to feed them. Okay? Or they have to sell for themselves. And so I think one of the biggest challenges for the consultants out there, the good ones, it's not, are they good with their clients? Yes, they are. It's, can they consistently get clients that will pay them what they're worth? That's the hard duplication piece.
So Joe, you've talked a lot about, I think some people will be listening going, wow, this Joe guy has a lot going on, between corporate training and boot camps and products, right? Doing everything that the two of you, there's a lot to manage. Take us just inside into a typical day in the life of Joe Pici when it comes to running the business. You said you start the day at, as you said, 3:30 in the morning?
Yeah, but even if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I wake up.
You're an early riser. Yeah.
My clock.
So how do you approach, because you've created, obviously, there's a lot of intellectual property in books and courses and, you speak, you train, all this stuff. What does your typical day look like? Do you have any, and let me rephrase a little bit, do you have any rituals or principles that you follow that you feel are key to your performance?
People have rituals.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I have my own priority management system. Everything has priorities. If I'm not with a client that day, if I'm not speaking, coaching, or training, my first priority is selling. That always takes priority in my part of the business. We never develop material during work hours. Our material development is if we have a weekend off, in the evening, okay? Remember, when you own your own business, you get to choose the 20 hours a day you work. So there is no 8-hour day. Now, you better love what you do. And so I get up early after I'm on my stationary bike and I watch a video, I read a little bit, shower, protein shake, and I'm rolling. Now, if I'm not training that day, I'm going to be mining leads on LinkedIn. I don't go to bed at night until tomorrow's phone list and things to do list is done. Well, I'm not sitting here saying, what am I doing today? It's already done.
Right. Yeah, that's key.
As soon as the sun comes up and the bell rings, I'm making outbound calls.
Mm-hmm. What time do you start making calls typically?
Depends on the market. There's some people, I can call at 7 o'clock in the morning because once they get to work, you're not going to get them.
Right.
All right. I know my markets really well. You know, there's a lot of sales books that say the best time to call people is between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to tell you, I book more appointments from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Monday. I close more contracts on Friday afternoons. And that goes against everything you read. And so I think we have to be careful that we don't fall into what everybody says.
Right. At the end of the day, it's the action, right? It's taking consistent action, putting in the work. And when you do it consistently enough, you can buck all those trends.
Let me tell you, like, for example, next week, I'll get into the hotel room, the meeting room at 4 a.m. Why do you do that? Well, I'm crazy. That's why you have me on your show. I'm crazy. No, but I'm in there and I'm going through my checklist, making sure. And then I always, when people fly in from out of state, I make myself available. And people know that. So those people will start coming in 5:30 for coffee. And we'll talk. We'll do some coaching. And now we train. We start at 8:30 sharp. And this is not a kumbaya train. This is intense. At 12 o'clock, when they go to lunch, you know what I do? I make my outbound calls. I make 150 outbound calls a week, even when we're doing boot camp. Now, that sounds fanatical. It's not. I did a podcast on habits. It's one of my habits. Okay? Let me take you back this past Saturday, a day in the life of Joe and Dawn Pici when we're not speaking. We weren't speaking this Saturday. I got up 3:30. I did my thing. Okay? Now, one of my podcasts is on checklists. So staging number one, where I take everything out and put it on the dining room table for the boot camps, checklist it. Make sure Dawn is doing certificates for the people. I'm going over my final list. I'm going through every single thing that has to be done in the boot camps, right? We recorded 4 podcasts that day, all right? I was making my target list for phone calls to be made on Monday, all right? So everything was proactive, were things that a lot of times consultants do from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a Monday when they should be looking for clients.
Interesting. I think that's a good point because, whether it's between 8 to 5 or I'll put the kind of the time there to the side, I think the big observation there or opportunity for people is to recognize that most often, right, it's easy to do the easy work, right? It's easy to create the content or whatever else it is and put off the sales and the marketing because those are typically the areas that you're less comfortable with, right? Where there's more unknowns, more uncertainty, more potential, quote unquote, rejection. And so it's the first thing to go, right? It's the first thing that kind of gets pushed back. And then you wonder why you're not making the progress that you ultimately want to be making.
You know, I don't want to sound like sales comes first. When we did our first boot camp, a lot of our peers said, no, man, don't put on your own event. You'll lose your shirt. Well, I said to my wife, hey, make some flyers. I called the hotel, rented it. In 3 weeks, I came back and I said to Dawn, hey, you better start making materials. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I sold out the boot camp. She said, yeah, what? I said, sold out the boot camp. She goes, Joe, I can't make that stuff on the computer we have. I said, Dawn, I just put $50,000 in the bank. Buy an iMac.
Yeah. There you go, right? Yeah.
And so the thing that if a person could get a handle, a methodology on client acquisition, and here's the other thing, not transactional, but consultative. 82% of all sales happens between the 6th and the 15th contact. 68% of the population is slow paced. They're not buying today. So if you keep your funnel full, you'll always have enough clients coming on.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I really want to thank you for coming on here today. It's been great to have some of your wisdom and experience shared with us. And I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work. So where's the best place? We're going to have the transcript up and we'll link to your website. But just for those listening right now, what's your website address that they should go to?
My phone number is 407-947-2590. If you ever want to have a complimentary cup of Joe, call me. Our website is www.picandpici.com. But here's a free thing for you. You take out your phone and type in the number 55678. Go into tag and write Sales Edge. Make sure it's one word. Text that. It'll take you to a link. That will hit the link. That'll take you to a splash page. There's free downloads with LinkedIn as well as sales. And there's also videos on there that are all free. And then there's links to all of our podcasts. That's a free thing for you. And you'll enjoy the podcast. And then go on LinkedIn, connect with me. And it's Joe and then PICI. And you'll recognize me. I'm pointing at you.
Sounds good. Awesome, Joe. Thanks very much for coming on again.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.